We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters, the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Cellar Cup weekend. And it starts tonight, of course. It's in James's Park, continues tomorrow. It's good evening to George, Steve, Mitch and to Joe. And first of all, lads, as you know, we often get questions sent in during the week. And this one's a classic from Stephen Durham, a.k.a. Hilly, on X. He says, question for the lads, Steve. Do any of you remember a zoo in the big market? I've been working for a bloke in his 60s, so it might turn into a question for George, but he says various animals used to be kept in one of the buildings. Now, Steve, you were first off there, so I'm gonna give you the honour of the answer. Go on, then tell us about this zoo in the big market.
Yeah, it was in the old town hall. So where you've got like the centerpiece, you know, the modern building that runs down the middle of the market, that was the old town halls, which when the civic centre came, that obviously closed down and got demolished. But I remember going and I had this indoor zoo and you walk along and it was just animals in cages like elephants and stuff like that, monkeys, tigers, you name it, they were in there. And I remember going in and it absolutely stunk. It was unbelievable, the stench. But yeah, he's definitely right. The old chap definitely was. It wasn't like a permanent thing. It was just like a thing that was there for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, something like that. It wasn't like, you know, they shipped out all the council workers and stuck animals in their places or not like that.
All right, there you go. George, do you want to give a comment on it? Do you remember it?
Yeah, very much. In fact, it was one of the last things that I was involved in. Some of the family going, they'd heard all about it, so they wanted to go and have a look. And Steve's right; the smell hit you before you got in the door. I mean, you could smell it just in front of the bloody cathedral, never mind in the place. So yeah, it was. Now I remember it. It was quite sad, really. They wouldn't be allowed to do it today because the animals weren't in the best cages and in the best conditions. It really was quite sad. You know, I don't think they'd be allowed to do it now. But yes, I remember it. It was. Sorry.
I wonder if any of those animals ended up at Lambton Lion Park because there was the zoo there, wasn't there? The Lion Park, if you remember. I wonder if any of them ended up there. But yeah, God, it did stink, George, wasn't it? It's terrible.
That's another thing. Our family, one of Marjorie's cousins, married the gamekeeper at Langley, at Lambton, and so. We sometimes used to go through and see Marjorie, and was another Marjorie, and her husband, and you could hear the bloody lions roaring while we were having our tea.
Good stuff. All right. Well, there we go. Recollections. Mitch, can you remember being taken there by your dad?
Vaguely. To be fair, I just remember the big market being more like a human zoo, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we all do, mate. I think we all do. I mean, it did cross my mind when that question came in. I had to read it to make sure it wasn't a joke. But yeah, well, there we go. You learn something every day. I didn't know there was a zoo in the big market, so it's not there anymore, though. So interesting stuff. And get well to Pablo, who does the fans forum. He's not been too good the last 7 to 8 days. I've been in touch with him on a regular basis, but he's in his hospital bed. Get well soon, mate. Hope everything's okay, and just rest up, mate. That's what you need. You need plenty of rest, and that will do you. Yeah, 100%. The other thing I want to ask you, lads, and you can have a little bit of time to think about this one. Stephen Kennedy likes to set us a challenge. Dinner parties, lads, dinner parties. He wanted a slightly more guests. I'm going to keep it to 3, so you can have a think about that. We'll look at that in the next hour. If you had a dinner party, somebody alive or dead, who would you like to invite to your ideal dinner party? Can be celebrity, can be well known, anybody, but could be a footballer, could be an actor, could be a singer. But yeah, think about your top 3 dinner invites, and we will tackle that for Stephen Kennedy in due course. And one of the things that everybody has wanted us to tackle this week is Manchester United. So we will start with it, because I think that's probably the thing that's inundated our timeline this week on a football score. And it's Manchester United would have failed PSR the season just gone if it hadn't been for a £40 million COVID allowance given to them by the Premier League. Every other Premier League club only received up to £1 million allowance. That came from a tweet or numerous tweets on X, and obviously has been covered by numerous news outlets this week. What was your take on that story this week, George? Made an interesting read and an interesting listen across lots of different platforms with, again, I guess, just, hitting the narrative that we've hit on here many, many times, that we've always felt Newcastle were put at a massive disadvantage, as have other teams been, and not allowed to challenge the so-called top 6.
Well, and that's the fundamental, isn't it? It's not just Newcastle now, and when the others will wake up, who knows? I mean, if they got it and nobody else did, where's the other top 5 out of the top 6? What have they been saying about it? Because they must feel a bit sore about it. It just reflects on the entire shambles that running of the Premier League is, and how anything can be wangled for the top 6 or any one of the top 6, but not for anybody else. And it's only now, of course, that the Evertons, the Nottingham Forest, the Leicesters, the Leeds are all feeling the pinch of the financial squeeze, that they begin to realise it wasn't just those nasty Geordies squealing; it was the other people as well. So I suspect there'll be a lot of angst, not just at other clubs, but I suspect probably 1 or 2 of the top 6 as well, thinking, well, hold on, 40 million. We never got 40 million. It just what about the clubs that were like Everton and others that were on the hard card, where I bet they're saying, well, hang on, where was our share? And certainly we have every right to say, but doesn't it smack of all the things that we've talked about on here? They write a new set of rules, and within days that being called openly and frankly the Newcastle rules. That all is just sheer hypocrisy, and I have to say, I would say allegedly corruption, because if there's an email trail, and there will be, knowing how stupid these people are, between the 6 and the league and others saying, how about we do this, lads, and it'll be there, then that's worse than corruption. It's collusion as well. And what originally starts out as a civil matter suddenly ends up as a bloody criminal matter, and it should be. It should be. The Premier League is in. Well, it's every nail it drives in, it's driving into its own coffin, in my opinion. And this really did make the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. And then we still have our friend Radcliffe talking about the Wembley of the North and wanting everybody else to pay for it. Well, if that's an example of what they get away with, then he might well get it. But I think there will be bloody riots if he does. So no, it just smacked of all that's wrong with the Premier League, and all that's wrong with if you wear a red shirt, you get away with murder, both on the pitch and off the pitch, in my opinion. And it's got to come to an end. Our owners have been very canny and sitting back a little bit. I'm sure they've got the lawyers and the strength. They've certainly got the money to turn the Premier League upside down if they wish to. And I just wonder how long they'll wait until they decide to have a go. Because another thing like this, if it was a couple of million, you'd say, well, okay, but 40 million? Good God. I mean, that really, really is beyond the pale in terms of helping them out. Helping them out. It's bailing them out so that they didn't go into this financial bind that everybody else has been in, we would have been in. So it just reflects on the parlous state that the Premier League is in, and how normal clubs, normal fans like us, just have to sit back and watch. I wait for the day that our people at PIF just get fed up and decide to do something about it, because they have the power, they have the money. They could do it any day they like, I think. And if you look at how they handled the golf thing, the live and the PGA thing that was never going to be solved, well, it was solved in 2 weeks by them. It's time the Premier League was solved.
Steve, give us your views on this. It's run and run this week, and of course, it's across our timelines for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, this is again typical of the way that the Premier League have operated, where they've allowed the top 6 clubs to play fast and loose. That's the only way you can see it, and the best way to describe it in terms of how they're allowed to report their accounts. It's not just the 40 million that they claimed were special expenses for COVID in a year when, I think it was the 22-23 accounting period when, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, there was no COVID. I think COVID covered the years 20 and 21. I don't think they covered the season 22-23 at all. But somehow they've managed to squeeze that in. They've also managed to squeeze in £35 million added costs for the takeover, for Ratcliffe buying the shares off other shareholders. They've managed to load a cost onto that of 35 million as well. So yeah, that makes,
including Steve, discrepancies in exchange rate. Who's been doing the money?
Amazing, isn't it?
Big Tony in New York.
You
know,
exactly. It smacks of the Sopranos, doesn't it? You know, dear me. But I mean, like I say, this is typical. This is the way that the Premier League, when they're doing their assessment, if you like, they obviously have a very, very light touch when it comes to Manchester United and the rest of the top clubs. And you look at Arsenal, but then even worse, you look at Chelsea, and I mean, again, Chelsea selling a player for £30 million after threatening him that if he didn't sign the contract that they were putting up in front of him, then he would be banished to the juniors. This is an England international. This is a lad who represented his country in the Euros. And if he didn't, then he had to agree to go to Atletico Madrid. They then go out and spend £65 million on Neto, which works out at £12 million a season when it's amortized. This is the ridiculous state of affairs that we're in when it comes to how football accounts are calculated, and how they play fast and loose, and they use players as assets, if you like, and they strip an asset out of a football club, an asset that must be the only business in the world where your asset costs you nothing. Normally assets, you have to buy an asset for it to be worth something, but they managed to get around it. And then on the other side of the accounts, they get away with it. But the Manchester United one just absolutely stinks. It reeks. And not even disclose. And I listened to Kieran Maguire, and I heard his rather rough explanation. And normally I have a bit of respect for him, but the things that he was throwing out as reasoning, i.e., well, we don't really know what other football clubs have had wrapped up in theirs because only Manchester United are on the New York Stock Exchange, so that's why it had to be. It doesn't wash, Kieran. It does not wash. It's hogwash. That's basically what it is. And don't be fooled by what you hear and what they're telling you, because they're shysters, basically.
Mitch, lots of people anticipating a rant from you on this. I mean, you've been asked quite a bit about it on social media, haven't you?
Hello, boys and girls. Are we all sitting comfortably? Then I begin. Yeah, this situation with Man United now, for me, I think has the Premier League exposed very much legally now. Let's start with their accountant. They've been allowed 40 million exceptional losses due to COVID, some of which includes sponsorship partners going bankrupt, etc. The year in which it's been applied seems quite fast and loose. However, there is another example of somebody being offered that level of COVID relief, and that was Everton. Yeah. During the previous year's accounting, when the Premier League were desperate for them not to become a problem. And the other thing, they got allowed exceptional allowances initially, and it was taken away once they didn't do what they were told, was the cancellation of the contract of the player who was accused and subsequently remanded and then actually released without charge in a police-related matter. And that was another, I think that was another 30 million. So it shows that they can be flexible on these things. However, Everton, having then been put through the ringer and put through points deductions, must now be looking at this thinking, well, hang on a minute. What do you mean exceptional COVID circumstances? They've sort of tried to break it down, and it still doesn't make much sense to me when I've seen the breakdown. And nor, as Steve quite rightly says, is it, in my opinion, applied in the correct period of accounting. To be allowed not just one, not two, not three, but 40 times the allowance of some clubs during that accounting period. That's not aberrant. That's ridiculous. And then you have the 30 million unexpected costs due to the takeover, which I gather half of which is being levied on exchange rate. Now, I'm an expat. I send money home. And yes, I know all about exchange rate fluctuations. At any one point, when I want to send money back, I can save myself, or rather, put 150 quid more in my daughter's pocket because I can either use the bank, or I can use an exchange house over here, or I can use Western Union, or I can use there's a couple of other sources I can use out here. And at any one point, when I transfer, for example, £1,000, I can make that stretch further depending on who I send it with, what rate they're giving, and what charges they're levying at the minute. So I get that. I get that happens. But £30 million, or even if you say half of it, £15 million, where you been exchanging your money, lads? What you've been using, your banks had you bent over a bloody barrel there. That seems, and initially some of that 40 million that became COVID expenses was being included in the takeover expenses, and then suddenly it got divided in two and spread between. It seems very much that the Premier League, to me, have almost a make it up as you go along attitude to making things work. What they don't want to be bothered with people failing PSR. I think, frankly, if you were to put them in a room with no microphones and nobody else around, they would admit PSR's knackered, it's not fit for purpose, we don't want to deal with these problems. They tried so hard to make Everton's problems go away. You have got no idea, from what me and Steve have been told over the last year, from people within the Football League, interestingly, how hard the Premier League tried to make Everton's problem go away. And it was Mashori's bullishness that actually pulled it all apart. If he'd just done what he was told, they would have ended up with maybe a 1 or a 2 point deduction. They would have bent over to make that problem go away. So how Forest must feel as well, having been put through what they've done, how Villa must feel, who they've done a whirlwind of transfer business, but within that, everybody's missing. They've sold 2 of their best players. They've had to. And yet the same Man United being given 40 million exceptional COVID relief, and some of it just makes no sense. And then the biggest elephant in the room remains from PSR for me, Chelsea. Chelsea are making it up as they go along, and they don't care. They blatantly don't care. Yes, they've made a lot on player trading and sales, because they can. They still have a squad of something like 43 and 8 goalkeepers. How they're going to make that work over the next few weeks is going to be very interesting to me. But if you look at things that people are saying, oh, well, that's in the PSR and that's going to sort it out. The hotel sales. The land registry paperwork is still not done. So if that land registry paperwork is not done, that's not a sale to me. And I've seen nowhere, absolutely nowhere, where someone from the Premier League says, yes, we've approved that. I think that's sitting still in the not approved bin. Same with the training ground. Same with the hiving off of the women's team. How can you take an 8 million, a business that's losing 8 million a year, and say it's worth 250 million when you hive it off and sell it to another company related to you, and then complain about us having related party transactions? It's a nonsense. But again, do the Premier League have the balls to stand up to this and look at it properly and deal with it? Or are they just going to do what I think they'll do? Everything will go through on a nod, then they'll change the rules so nobody else can benefit from it once Chelsea have benefited from it. And say, well, we've shut the door. Well, mate, that's long after the horse has bolted. Not good enough. You've got 3 examples there where PSR rules have not been applied even-handedly or fairly, in my opinion. And I think now they're on a very shaky legal ground if somebody wanted to challenge it, because it just looks like a mess. It looks like they're making it up as they, and it does indeed. They're looking like they're favouring their buddies, the people that want to put it through. And it really is depressing when you think about it, that, you know, they're putting rules in place to throttle us back, and letting Chelsea just basically do what they like. If you look at their amortised trading for the next 5 years, I think they're now at 250 million a cycle. You can't tell me that they're making that back. No. And they're going to make that work. And they're acting like they don't care. That's the worst bit. They just look like they're driving the coach and horses through it. So I think there's a hell of a lot to unpack. And I just don't see a Premier League that's prepared to stand up and apply the rules fairly. They do just seem to be that they make it up as we go along. It really it rankles me greatly. And I think there must be people involved in other clubs looking at this thinking, well, why the hell are we bothering? Because it doesn't look like they're going to bring a hammer down on Man United. They've let them get away. It doesn't look like I can't say, well, there's still potentially pending things with Chelsea, but of course Chelsea are being smart. They reported themselves and they want to blame it on the nasty Russian man. And I think they'll get away with a lot of that too, unfortunately. Because where is that money that's resting in a bank account somewhere that's supposed to go to quote-unquote victims of the war in Ukraine? I mean, very much now, if Abramovich wanted to point some of that back to Russia, he probably could now. That's the irony of it all. I just can't get over how weak the Premier League have been in these circumstances. We've just got no confidence. Would an independent body be any better? Don't know. We know, would they just come in and listen to the cartel? I suspect they would initially. But also, the rest of the Premier League have got to look at themselves. Because you were so frightened of us, you let them vote a lot of this in.
Yeah. They'll drive a coach of horses.
Your turkeys, you voted for Christmas. Congratulations. Well done. And now we see moves with Chelsea. I don't know if you've seen today the thing that got leaked about who Chelsea's new betting partner are. It's 8xBet, the one who were being investigated in Man City's 115 charges. How does that happen? They're being investigated for irregularities in the sponsorship agreement with Man City, and now they're going to be Chelsea's betting partner for the season. Fabulous. That makes perfect sense to me. There's nothing to see here, is there? There's just nothing to see at all. I'm standing in front of a burning building and telling everybody everything's totally fine and would you like a coffee? I'm just totally perplexed by it now. This Man United situation where they've just basically been allowed to drive a coach and horses through it all. Chelsea are at the minute as well. Man City, what's going on with Man City at the minute? We still don't know what the result of their counter-action against the Premier League was being. Then they've been fined for delaying kickoffs too much, which just seems like pettiness from the Premier League, if you ask me. Yes, here's an amount of money that will not upset you, that you can pay out your petty cash. But take that in the face with a wet glove, sir, as we show how hard we are because you've been delaying kickoffs for the last 2 years. I mean, good God, let's deal with the big stuff, please. Huh? Very frustrating. And like I say, rest of the Premier League and teams in the Championship who voted along with it all, mainly because they were terrified of us. You shouldn't be terrified of us or any money coming from the Middle East. It's the money from America you should have been terrified of, and you just have opened the floodgates.
Yeah, that door will shut, Mitch. That door will remain open and will only close more than likely when the other 5 top clubs sell their women's clubs to themselves, and then it'll shut. It'll close. That's when that'll close, and you can see Man United will sell off the ground at Old Trafford ahead of the building of the new ground, and that'll be there. All of those type of things. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on. You can just see it coming over the hill, and you know what? The clubs will wrap the regulator in bits. They will have them tied in knots. If the Premier League can't sort themselves out, then the regulator is going to have a hell of a job, because I don't know where the regulator is going to start, because in reality, the regulator has very, very little power. It can stop Man United from changing the colour of their shirts.
Yeah.
It can stop them changing the name of the ground if they want to, if the fans don't want it. But apart from that, it's honestly kit glove stuff in comparison to the big players that the football clubs have operating on their behalf. So sorry, Joe, I had to jump in there.
The point I'd like to make, Andy, who said about the land registry, I get that, but they're claiming the deal was done 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's about timelines. That's why people are questioning the land registry stuff, because it doesn't sit with the timeline, with the period of accounting in which they say the deal was done. And I'm not claiming it was done for this period. It's a previous period, which is more than a year ago.
Yeah. All about timing. Joe, I mean, it's it's a lot to take in, isn't it, when these things happen? But it just seems to be happening time and time again.
How do you follow that? Yet again, I know. But yet again, we're talking about something. That we're talking about off the field matters. We're talking about corruption. We're talking about the Premier League being even more bent than we were led to believe they were a week ago before this news come out. Where's it ever going to stop? When does it end? Am I surprised? Absolutely not. We know there's compensations made. We know that there is a favoritism because actually these are global brands, aren't there? And as long as the global brands then make the Premier League a global brand, there's mutual benefit left, right, and centre. One of the things that really worries or upsets me, actually makes me really, really angry, and I'm going to park all football rivalry just for a second. The lads there are talking about football clubs such as Aston Villa, Everton, Nottingham Forest, Everton. These are absolute bastions of English football. These are European Cup winners. Just as much right to be at the top. Right there, son. They've got just as much right to be sat at the top table of English football than people who've just happened to, fall into bed with a Russian oligarch and American owners that are really good at hiding money here, there, and everywhere. That's the bit that really, really upsets me. I talked a fortnight ago when I was last on, we were talking about the club in France that's hit the skids. And what does that actually mean? Because of piss poor ownership. This isn't about piss poor ownership. This is clever people finding ways round rules with little brown envelopes and deals and promises that, I'll make Richard Masters just as famous as I can make Malcolm Glazer. So there's mutual benefit, for all of us there. It absolutely stinks. It stinks to high heaven. And yet we're going to be there next Saturday celebrating this product, the Premier League, and they'll play the nice tune as we come out and we'll all get excited and hopefully watch Newcastle win, of course. But this is the world that we live in. It's murky, it's dirty. And, my hope, I had eternal optimism for this regulator because I hoped that the regulator would come in and regulate 20 football clubs or 92 football clubs, not just 6 football clubs. But whether that's ever going to happen or not, I don't know. Whether the rest of us just have to play a lip service. What chance have we got? What's the point? Why don't we go and watch, rugby or do something else on a Saturday? Because what is the point? Aston Villa, as Neil said, they are selling some tremendous footballers in the season that they've qualified for the Champions League. And we know what that feels like. Imagine us going into our Champions League season and going, oh, by the way, but Tonali can't play, Bruno can't play, and Isaac can't play, etc., etc., etc. What is the point? Who's going to get a grip of it? Who's going to stand up and start the revolution? Because that's what it needs. And if they've got all of the spotlight on them with our takeover. They've got all of the spotlight on them with everything that's about to get uncovered with this whole Man City debacle. And yet their response to it is give Man United, a bit of this, a £42 million leg up, while Everton can go to the wall and Notts Forest can go to the wall. It's absolutely appalling. There's only one thing to say at a time like this. I would love it if we beat them. Love it.
Brilliant stuff. First half an hour gone. Lots to take in on that subject. Lots of other stuff to cover. 765 of you watching live at the moment. Thanks very much for that. We're never taken for granted. The 200 of you who are watching on Twitter, please jump over onto YouTube, find NUFC Matters, and hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. And on a Friday night, if you are the first time watcher of the Amigos, we do get through quite a bit. The day I met, we're asking you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And thank you to Dennis Taylor for this wonderful photo. He said, happened to have a pint with Tommy Cassidy in the Monkey Bar in the Tune about 5 years ago. Good bloke, gone too soon. Rest in peace. And we gave some wonderful tributes to the guys this week. Super Matt and Gibbo, if you haven't watched it already, give that a watch. About halfway through the show, they did a wonderful tribute to Tommy. If you've got a photograph meeting somebody from Newcastle, past or present, then send it over to us on our Facebook group or page. You can join the page or like the page and join the group, and follow me on X at Steve Wraith. You can send us it on there and we'll feature it next week. Okay, Joe, I'm going to give you first go on this one, mate. And we're just going to talk about Mark Gahey, because obviously Newcastle heavily linked with him. There's been a bit of transfer activity today at other clubs. We've seen Solanke leave Bournemouth. He's now heading to Tottenham Hotspur. £50 million plus add-ons takes it to around about £65 million for Solanke. I think that's a lot of money to be paying for him. I've got to be perfectly honest. We know that Conor Gallagher is on his way as well, leaving Chelsea, leaving the Premier League. Chelsea, again, we've already touched on it, spending big. The transfer window is starting to heat up now. Newcastle, though, are in negotiations with Crystal Palace about Mark Gahey. 65 million is what we're being led to believe by the media that Crystal Palace want for him. And Newcastle allegedly gone in with a second offer of 50 million or thereabouts today, and that has been rejected. So Newcastle and Crystal Palace apparently still talking. I guess the question is, what is a player worth, Joe? I mean, is it worth pushing for that, pushing for that 65 and just hitting what they want, or is it worth going back in with another 55 million? How do you see it playing out, Joe?
One, I think it's fantastic news. I think he's an excellent footballer. I am in the centre half union, as you know. I think he's fantastic. I thought he was excellent. He had an excellent summer for England. So he's young, he's good, he's an international footballer. He's got lots of years ahead of him. Arguably, if Dominic Solanke, and I know it's the other end of the park, but if Dominic Solanke's worth £65 million, ideal, Mark Gahey for me, probably is the going rate, Steve. If you think about Mr. Maguire and what Mr. Maguire went to Old Trafford for, that was that around 80 million, I'm led to believe. So
80,
actually,
80,
so 50 plus for this guy, is arguably the going rate. It's lovely. I'm over the moon. We're talking about signing a £50 million plus footballer. That's fantastic. I'll take that. Thank you very much. I think we were all kind of focused on the other end of the pitch. So I'm sure I know we've signed a lad from Sheffield United there, and that'll hopefully be a good signing. But this lad's tried and tested. He's an international. He'll hopefully fit into our team. I'm relatively excited, if there's such a thing, about what our back four is going to look like. And I'm particularly thinking this season, next season, and definitely the season after, when Hall's embedded and Tino Livramento's embedded. If Sven Botman comes back from his terrible injury, like the Sven Botman that we signed, I'm really excited about the back four, and that's a really sad insight into my life. But yeah, we're in the market. Is it a big smoke screen? We know Eddie Howe likes a bit of smoke and mirrors when it comes to the transfer market. We're looking over there, and the next minute we sign someone from over there. Who knows? But if Paul Mitchell wanted to come in and Paul Mitchell wanted to make a statement, sign an England centre-half is a statement, arguably whether he's worth it or not. So I think it's a fantastic move. I think it'll be good for the team. Obviously, it'll be good for Crystal Palace in the fight against, the conversation we've just been talking about. It might help some of their financial difficulties, and we get a cracking footballer. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's great. It's inflated market value anyway, Steve. So is he worth it? Only time will tell. If he goes on to play 150 times for England and lifts the FA Cup for Newcastle 6 times, having made 500 appearances, it was absolutely worth it. So I'll get behind the lad because I think he's fantastic.
Okay, Mitch. Rumours, transfer stories, transfer links. It's something we've put up with all summer. Barry's list, well over 180, as we know. We always ask him to do that just to keep an eye on, how ridiculous it is, I guess, more than anything else. But Gahey came out of, wide left, I guess. It's been played out in the public now. Keith Downey is the one who Gary V rightly points out is putting the information out there. Is it a smoke screen, do you think, or do you think we are genuinely trying to get this guy in and Newcastle are just doing what they do, which is always drive a hard bargain?
You asked about player value. I'll tell you what the market is right now. A player is worth what somebody's prepared to pay for them.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to it for me. It doesn't seem to be any regular way of pegging a value of a player. That's why I think when the Premier League talk about we're going to investigate all these last-minute transfers, mind, they don't have a cat and hell's chance of working that out because there is no way of valuing a player anymore. And clubs are within their right to hold out for as much money as they feel they can get. I believe we're in a dance with Crystal Palace, and I think it's a dance that we all know how it's going to end. I've seen the video that Mark referred to in the strap line there tonight. And if that's a real video, has me monkeyed around with, it's not something from another time that's been dressed up as something else. That reaction was a man who was not staying at Crystal Palace. You don't walk away and shrug your shoulders like that when fans are. And the other thing, I don't know if people noticed, it's worth going back and having a little look. When you look at the press conference when Eddie Howe was being asked about Gahey, have a look at the look on Bruno's face when he sat next to him. There's a smirk on his face a mile wide, and he's trying very hard to turn his face away from the cameras. But we see it, Bruno. We see it, mate. I think Palace, though, are within their right to say, well, no, I don't want that. And to bargain about how a fee's paid and to want to have it because they have a PSR to think of their own. And so it just becomes, when I say people saying just pay the money, no. Because if we start doing that, we've got to do that with everybody and we'll just have our pants taken down repeatedly. The other thing I say, well, how hard is it to sell players? It's very hard to sell players at the minute when they're players that people don't want. And when the players that people don't want, they want to lowball you. And that screws our PSR up. And my manager's not going to come out and say, well, I'm selling him because he's shit, because that'll screw the value of the player totally anyway. All these things are just not going to happen. It's not Football Manager. It doesn't work like that. The other thing I think you've got to take into account is we are now dealing with a different calibre of player. When you're talking about slapping £50 million, I'll remind everybody, in the history of football, only 17 clubs around have paid more than £50 million for a single player. We are gratefully one of them. And in the current market, of those 17 clubs, there's probably only about 6 who could now, and we are one of them. And that's what the market's like. I'm astonished at Solanke's value. If you look at Solanke's finishing rate in the Premier League, I love him to bits, but I know he's often maligned by our fan base for one reason or another. He's got worse strike rate than Shola. His strike rate is worse than Shola Amiobi's. So, okay, you're paying £65 million potentially for the modern day Shola. That shows the kind of valuations going on striker. And I think that makes our striker from Sheffield United look like an absolute find, in the bargain section of richer sounds. It's It really, the transfer market is something that's quite unfathomable to me at the moment, because it's very much deals are being done at levels that suit the seller and the buyer. I think these days it's genuinely a proper negotiation, and I can't tell you what a player is actually worth, but at the end of the day, he's only going to be worth what somebody's prepared to pay for.
Yep, Steve, it's it's going to be an interesting one. This it could go all the way. I mean, I have seen that video, and Neil Wright quite rightly point out it could be from anywhere, but it doesn't look positive. It doesn't look positive for Crystal Palace. It does look like he's going to leave. And I did notice as well other people picking up on Bruno's smirk. So we can add 2 and 2 together and get 5, of course, but. Yeah, maybe it's just down to the price. The personal terms, I wouldn't imagine, are going to be too much of an issue. And it looks like the player does want to come. Of course, that's what we're picking up from some esteemed journalists anyway.
Yeah, I must admit, when I saw the smirk on Bruno's face, first thing that went through my mind was that Eddie had already said before the press conference started, don't ask us about him. And then, of course, the question was asked, so then Bruno got the giggles. That's what came over to me, I must admit. I don't think it was anything other than that. I think the added problem we've got with Crystal Palace at the moment is that they're in the middle of a possible buyout of the shares of one of their owners. He's trying to offload his shares in Crystal Palace because he wants to buy Everton. So I think there's probably couldn't be a worse time to try and negotiate with Steve Parish at the moment, when there's all sorts of things going on. I understand that Parish and his other 2 directors, or certainly his other 2 directors, had made an offer to the other shareholder, and that offer was rejected out of hand. So there's obviously boardroom squabbles going on and such like. You talk about the value of a player. Mitch mentioned the pick and mix at Victor Sounds, or the bargain bucket. I think it's more like the pick and mix at Woolworths at the moment, where everybody thinks they can either dip their hand in and just put the pick and mix sweets back in their pocket and walk out, or alternatively wrap them in a different wrapper and say, no, that's not a custard cream, or that's not a strawberry one, that's the one with a nut in the middle. That's the sort of way that it's being played at the moment. I just looked, we talked about Chelsea, Steve, and earlier on, and somebody just sent me a link that said they've got 44 players. They've got 7 goalkeepers, 3 left backs, 2 right backs, 9 central midfield, 9 centre backs, 10 central midfielders, 3 right wingers, 3 left wingers, and 7 strikers. That's what they're sitting with, 44 players, of which, presuming that they're going to play a basic 4-4-2, they're going to play 1 keeper, 1 left back, 1 right back, 2 centre backs. So let's go 4-3-3, give them the benefit of the choice. 1 striker, 1 left winger, 1 right winger, and 3 central midfielders. So that leaves quite a hole in their squad of players, doesn't it? When basically you only have a squad of 25 anyway. I think there's a merry-go-round that's going to start with central defenders. Delete that at Munich was supposed to be going to Man United, and now all of a sudden Liverpool has stepped in. I can then see if that's the case, you can see Man United stepping in and trying to take Gueye. I'm surprised we haven't gone in for Tomori at AC Milan, I must admit, because that's more value, as the value was for Thiaw. And everybody presumed that it was Thiaw that we were going for at Milan. When they bought another central defender. Perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's the other way around. I think that's the way it is now. I think everybody's just sticking their finger in the air and seeing what sticks and seeing what they can come up with. And I think that's not just us as supporters, but I think very much the press. It's a waiting game. I think there's a lot of bravado being played. I think there's a lot of this, as you say, PSR. What hasn't happened yet is that the Saudi Pro League haven't stepped in and started giving out money, for ridiculous prices for money. They're now looking for bargains overseas. They're not coming to the Premier League for players at the moment either. So I think there's plenty of time in the transfer window. We're only on the 9th of August, so plenty of time to go, another 3 weeks. But I think that we're very much in the dark side at the moment, and I think that the light in the transfer market will come probably as it always does in the last week, if not the last few days, which kind of smacks against what most managers want, which is get somebody in pre-season, get their feet under the table. I think the Euros kind of stalled that a little bit. But you look at some of the clubs who have done their business quietly and gone about it. Villa for one, Man City, not buying but selling. And you're just wondering where this is going to end. But no, is the lad coming? I you know what? I'm not too sure. I think we're very much in the camp of lowballing and the price and Palace at the moment are saying we're not going to budge. We're not going to budge. That's the price. So unless you stump up the 65 we want and all that, it's obvious that you look at what was said during the week. We were told that it was literally a case of working out the financials, working out how the money was going to be handed over and when, how much it was going to be on the instalment side. Obviously, that's not the case because they've knocked back the initial offer and the second offer, if what we're reading is true. So we're just playing in the dark, and probably the only people who really know are Steve Parish and Mitchell. They're the only two people who really know the truth.
George, I mean, it's interesting. PSR will play its part in this, I guess. Palace have to abide by the rules as well. I'm wondering as well whether Dougie Freedman plays a part in this as well. I mean, of course, he was linked with the sporting director's job at Newcastle at one point. And I'm not sure what the relationship's like either between Newcastle and Crystal Palace. I think voting, for various things comes into these kind of things as well. We deal well with some clubs and maybe don't deal well with others, but ultimately it comes down to what the player wants, I guess, and what we think he's worth. I think that's I'm just chucking in other potential reasons why this might not happen as quickly. But what's your thoughts, George, on overall on the Marquee situation?
Well, it's all about what we know and what we think we know, isn't it?
Yeah.
For example, in one of the papers I read this morning, we've agreed terms with Guy. We haven't agreed transfer terms with his club, but we've agreed personal terms with him, which just beggars belief, really. The big thing for me is I've been constantly, as desperate to see us behaving like the big club that we are, and when we're in the market to buy the current best English centre half that's played at the moment, in my opinion, we're there at the front of the queue trying to buy him. That's a good signal to me that we're acting like a big club. And if he comes, I'd be delighted. But if he doesn't, I've got faith in the people that are doing things now, particularly with Paul Mitchell. That we'll have somebody else in their back pocket will come in and do just as nearly as good a job. But to have a young current English international at the front of the queue, and we're the ones that look like we're going to buy him, I think is fantastic. And Eddie Howe's press conference as well, the little bits he drops in just as he's talking about the laddie that they've got from Sheffield United. Oh, we've been tracking him for 3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 years. So they know a lot about him if they've been looking at him that long and bringing them down. The other thing is, I had no idea until I started to look this week. I said last week, I think, that his stature was such he wouldn't get pushed off the ball as easily as Mente would. Well, he won't. He's 6'3", idiot. He's a nice big lad. Well, and like a greyhound. Can you imagine if they can work their magic on him to get him to run alongside Isak and to have two of them like that up front, making the defenders' lives a misery? Will be a big club, all right. There's no question about that. So that's the bottom line for me. The other one is, of course, we're talking about a man who almost daily, Parish, slags off Newcastle United on Talk Sport. He cannot have to find a good word for it. He chokes every time he says Newcastle United, and he chokes every time he tries to say something about Amanda Staveley and all the others. So we've still got to deal with that man, though, as part of the negotiation with this player. So it's never going to be easy. Well, I'm not too bothered about it being easy. What I'm pleased about is we're in there pitching, we're in there having a go. And if he costs a little bit more, well, pay it, boys, because the impact of that lad in our back four, back five, whatever you want to call it, if Botman comes back and all the others are on song, would be tremendous. I mean, the depth of our squad at that base in front of Pope would just be unbelievable and challenge anybody in the Premiership. So go for it, lads. In terms of the one we're comparing it with, Solanke, well, we're comparing it, apples with pears for me, because Solanke barely proved himself in the Championship, never mind the Premiership. And as Neil said, his goal scoring record, it doesn't set the world on fire, even where he's been playing. Yes, he's scored some nice goals, but that you just, when he says scored some nice goals, that's a, I can find 25 centre forwards in the Premier League who've scored some nice goals, but I don't want it at Newcastle United. I wouldn't want them there. So the Spurs have, done favour to everybody taking them out of the market, because goodness gracious, 65 million for that young man. Yeah. You cannot see it, can you? It just isn't there. There's not even a hint in what he's done before that he's doing that. 65 million. I'd want somebody that had been banging goals in for England or his own country, not just somebody that's been trailing around the Championship. So Spurs have taken out the market for everybody. It's just hopeless.
Look at that, and I look at West Ham's business so far. Yeah, and I tell you, what brings in my ears. There's an Everton supporting friend of mine over here who said to me a couple of years ago, "How did we just spend £500 million and become shite?" And that's the danger when you're dealing and wheeling and dealing at that level, at that amount, and you're desperate for success, and you start paying £65 million for a bang average striker. For me, that's big red flag, and I'm glad we're not involved in it.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Steve. You're on mute, Steve.
Sorry, I was going to say it's the Seth Johnson at Leeds situation, isn't it? Where he's going to sign for Leeds, and he walks into the office and meets Ridsdale, and Ridsdale's first words, having already said to his agent, "We're looking at 15 grand a week," and he walks in, and the first thing that Ridsdale says, "We're going to pay you no more than £35,000 a week," and he goes, "I'm here." That's the sort of thing that went on at Everton, I think, but it went on with transfer fees as well.
Yeah,
certainly did. Halfway through the show, it is time for the ads. We'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes, or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video, click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today. Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. Thanks everybody for watching. Over 800 of you watching tonight. A couple of hundred of you watching on Twitter. Please jump over onto YouTube and search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. Plenty, as always, to get through on a Friday night. We will be getting some tips off Toon Tipster in about half an hour's time. But I think it's time to inject a little bit of humour. And as always, thanks to everybody for sending in their tweets of the week. I have to vet them quite carefully these days so I don't upset people. But I don't think I'll be upsetting anybody by showing this horrendous piece of clothing. What on earth is this on sale in the club shop?
Looks like
anyone?
Minecraft.
That is weird, lad. That is weird. So yeah, available at all good shops that sell Nike Liverpool gear, obviously. The first swimmer emerging from the Seine earlier this week in the triathlon stated the water quality was actually not that bad, lads. So there you go. Don't believe everything you read in the media. We do get sent lots of signs and lots of things. One might tell us that this has been actually invented, but it hasn't been. Yes, turkey testicles on sale in a shop nowhere near me, thankfully. Sometimes people misspell signs in shops. Morrison's wafer thin penis is on sale for £1. I'm sure some of these shop assistants change things around. And Gary, this was brilliant. I think they meant the date. Yes, installed on someone scrolled the ceiling on the fire alarm. Not very good. I think we can all accept this is what it's like at the doctors these days. The doctor's waiting room. If you die whilst waiting to see the doctor, please cancel your appointment. Yes, it does feel a little bit like that these days. And notice, husbands choosing paint colours must have a signed note from their wife. Somebody clearly made a mistake at B&Q. Elephants, please stay in your car. I didn't even know they could drive. And up went red light shows, out thy horses. A Yorkshire road sign, lads. And this one from Stephen Kennedy. He says, has Keith Patterson had a bus stop named after him? Possibly. And how long do Scotch eggs take to hatch into little Scottish people? Asking for a friend. This interpretation of signs is a key on this one as well. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. Yes, £6 blender Carlisle. Very good. Very good. This one from Robbie at the Olympics. Canny Seamanova. The first two are Scottish people looking for their Vauxhall. Canny Seamanova. Very good. Yeah. And Iona Lake. Yes, and that was said to me numerous times with people saying that you shouldn't be boasting. And we've all seen the departure of Andy Murray at the Olympics. People calling Andy Murray Scotland's greatest ever sportsman have got short memories, lads.
Jockey from Wales.
Absolutely.
The late great Jockey Wilson. We've had a few cartoons this week. These are the ones I've got to be careful with. Stephen Middlemiss, though, thank you. He says, the poor girl is out of eggs. It must be the henopause. And Doctor, I keep hearing strange voices from my underpants. Ignore them. They're talking bollocks. God. Very good. And thanks, Colin, for this one. Well, I guess that settles the old age argument. And yeah, are you the owners? We're tenants.
God.
I did laugh at that one more than I should have done, lads. I've got to be honest. Jimmy Moore, great to see you. in the chat tonight. Alexander Graham Bell. I invented the telephone. His brother Taco. I'm working on some pretty big stuff too. And a Star Trek one. My bodybuilder friend died and left me all his protein. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, dear me.
Very good.
Oh.
And there's always a photo gets spoilt. Remember the Northern Lights? There was lots of photos were spoilt by various things in the background. With Jimmy sent us this one with all the negativity being seen now. Here's a photo of a beautiful sunset. Thanks, Jimmy. And if I can't have her, no one can, says Kermit.
Oh, God.
And if you fall off there and break your leg, don't come running to me.
Yeah.
I think we had that for years, lads, didn't we? And we always survived. We always survived. And I tell you what else survived. I found this on somebody shared this on Facebook group this week. Remember them lads? 10 bob floaters.
Yes, absolutely.
What a belter! Wembley Trophy football. I think we all had one of them. Wonderful.
I've all still got the marks on my thigh as well.
Probably have. Yeah, probably have.
Just gonna say.
Ian Hull says he pulled out a nose hair today to see if it hurt. He says, judging by the reaction of the man next to him on the bus, it seems pretty painful.
Good one, Ian.
And I was rudely woken at 2 a.m. last night, lads, by 3 Man United fans playing football with a hedgehog outside my window. I was outraged. I was shocked. I was just about to ring the RSPCA when the hedgehog 1-0 up. And I have a head, but I have no brain. What am I? It was always going to be an easy answer on that one. And another Star Trek one. I joined a carpenter's class last week. Have you made anything yet? We've only just begun.
Oh, dear me.
Oh, dear.
And hello, is Danny Boy there? Could I ask who's calling?
No.
Oh.
Very good. And this one from Gary. He says, try this one, Steve, when you're a bit worse for wear. I'm going to try it now. This is a shipping ships. There you go, Gary. Well, I'll keep that again for maybe when we're on the Malvern together in later this year. And when Lord Nelson died, lads, he was 5 feet tall. His statue in London is 15 feet tall. That's a ratio of 3 to 1. And Jimmy sent this one as well. I tried cooking with wine last night. After 5 glasses, I forgot why I was in the kitchen. Jimmy, we've all been there, mate. And if you were 6 when Rock Lobster originally came out in 1978, you'd be 52 now.
Hey.
A new drink on the market as well in America: ice cold hot dog water, delicious and nutritious.
Oh,
tastier than boiling hot dog water, apparently. And another one of these Facebook pages. Yeah, I'll be there in a minute. I'm just, yep, good stuff. And when you're finally happy, lads, but life has other plans. And this one from Roger Cook. I hate spelling errors. You mix up 2 letters and your whole post is urine. And when Miley Cyrus dances nearly nude and licks a hammer, it's called art. When I do it, I get kicked out of B&Q. Last, coming down to the top 6 or 7 here, Soda Pop Kid, thanks for this one. He says, the Grim Reaper came for me last night. I managed to fend him off with my vacuum cleaner. Talk about Dyson with death.
Oh, very
good, very good. And Viagra is now available in a tea bag. It doesn't improve your sexual performance, but it does stop your biscuits going soft. I haven't had one of these old ones for a while. If you could have sex with a famous celebrity, alive or dead, which would it be? Alive. This picture did grab us. How long till you notice, lads? Can you see it?
That's a dog.
Yeah, well done, Joe. You win the prize. There is a dog at the back there, on the back of that woman's backpack. It did look like a backpack at first. And congratulations to Jeremy Beadle. Finally got his star on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, God.
And single white van seeks single yellow sponge for dirty weekend of fun. You'll not see that on Tinder. And every cigarette you smoke takes 7 minutes off your student loan debt. And breaking news, a man got hit by a rental car. He said it hurts.
Very good.
Oh.
Top 3. I'll just love this one, lads. 7 ways to improve your scoring power. Wonderful advert that for the Northeastern Co-op that I found this week. What on earth they felt that was going to do for your scoring power, I'll never know. Top 2. Mark Slavin, great this. This was in Japan. Nintendo Switch for sale, 42 quid or nearest offer.
Class.
But the winner was a Star Wars one for me, and it was this one. Where are we? Scotland. 2 weeks later. Fantastic. If you've got any tweets, please send them to us on the Facebook group. You can join that or go to the Facebook page and like it. Other than that, you can follow me on X at Steve Wraith. Send us them on there, and I will feature them on next Friday's Tweet of the Week. Okay, George, Salah Cup's back this weekend. 2 games. First one kicks off tonight. Obviously, got a few games tomorrow. Women's team as well, getting an opportunity to play at St James's Park. Great opportunity for people who can't go to the game on a regular basis, George, and especially young kids who never get the chance to venture in at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the big plus about it. And they've done something about the price as well, haven't they? I don't think it's full price this weekend, which is another plus. No, I agree with you. It's an opportunity for people who can't normally go and don't normally go to savor the atmosphere, like what it is going with, and couldn't be happier for those that like that sort of thing. It doesn't appeal to me entirely, otherwise I would probably have been there. Largely because you know fine well that the team that ends is not going to be like the team that started. There are going to be so many changes and so much interruption in the football. Getting a game out of it's probably going to be a bit tough. But no, it doing what it's doing. It's getting the place warmed up and giving people a chance to go and have a look at what's going on. Especially as the stacks now open, of course. We've seen lots of pictures of that and people being able to go and see that happening. And just great. And there is another positive side to those. We're not playing mugs, you know. We're playing a top European team who have come to join in. So Salah Cup has a bit of kudos to it if we could attract teams like that come and take part in the whole thing. But look forward to how it goes and hope that everybody has a great time and we get a good result out of it. And more importantly, avoid injuries for what's more important in a week's time.
Steve, big opportunity, obviously, for Eddie Howe to run his players out one more time, and of course give one or two players a chance to get a little bit of friendly action in after the extended break because of the European Championships, etc. But also a great opportunity for the food bank, who released a video today, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the little video that's come out, it should be on the Chronicle website, and I'm sure we'll get anyone who looks on social media get an opportunity. It was just something that the guys at the food bank wanted to put out just to refresh everybody's memory about what the food bank on match days is all about, how it started, where it's heading. And I think it's one of those things that be interesting in the next couple of years from a political point of view to see whether or not we still need to be carrying on doing it, or whether we can actually phase it out because the government's got the balls to do something about some of the issues that we have in the community. But anyway, a different story for a different day. Salah Cup, great opportunity for the players to, as you say, who are coming back from the Euros. Might be a little bit early for Gordon and Trippier to come out tonight or tomorrow. They might get a run out for half an hour, you never know. Great opportunity for one or two of the new lads to get a run out and for some of the fans to see them. But most importantly, a great opportunity for, as you say, the youngsters to get in and actually savour the atmosphere in St James's Park on a match day, big game, and obviously the ladies' game as well that's taking place beforehand tomorrow afternoon. So all in all, I mean, it's a bit of a carnival weekend, and yes, we have the the Stack, the Cellar Stack. I don't know whether that's a good name or not, the Cellar Stack. I think that's what they called it, but it just doesn't ring true. Maybe I need to shuffle that round, or maybe I need to read up a little bit more on what it's actually called. But yeah, great opportunity, that opening. A new place for Newcastle fans to go before and after the game. I think it's one of those places that's going to have to be used quite extensively during the week as well, mind, not just on match days if it needs to really sort of push itself. But I think, as somebody mentioned there, away fans banned, in questioning why. You know what? I suspect that's more to do with finance than anything else. More to do with the fact that the club thinks that the place will be full regardless, and secondly, probably don't want to pay for the security that or the added security that might be needed. I think there's an element of that as well, but that might be just my my sort of Downton Thomas little head that sometimes comes to play when I hear, you know, instances where, you know, we welcome away fans to all the pubs in Newcastle. Everybody's welcome. Everybody enjoys themselves and make a big play out of it, but the club don't want them. For whatever reason, and they haven't really explained it, but I suspect it's more to do with the type of security that would need to put on if they did have away fans in, or feel as though they would need to put on. No, it's going to be a good weekend. I'll be there tomorrow at the food bank. Can't make it tonight. So Bill and I will be hovering around, and Colin and the rest of the team. Anyone wants to come along and join and be a collector for an hour or so before the game, they're more than welcome to come along, put their name down and introduce themselves. And if you can't do that and you're walking past, please stop and say hello, drop a few pennies in the bucket, because when you see the video, and you'll get to understand exactly why we started it and why we're continuing to do it, and what an important role that it is playing within the community, and how it's holding the community together and right across the city. It used to be called the West End Food Bank purely because that was the only food bank that we were aware of at the time. Now it's the Newcastle Food Bank, and it's got 7 satellites dotted all around the city, north, south. South, it's not really south, is it? But north, east, and west. And obviously you do have the Gateshead Food Bank on the other side of the river as well. So yeah, that's about it, Steve.
Yeah, Cellar Cup's back then, Mitch. It's we're actually the Cellar Cup holders as well, so we're defending our trophy, Mitch. But quite rightly, the lads mentioned the Stack opening as well. I mean, it was crazy to me to see people queuing up to get there yesterday. I understand, though, summer holidays, some people keen to get in and be the first in there. But yeah, I mean, it's a welcome addition because it's creating revenue for Newcastle United.
I mean, from my point of view, you've heard me and my dad talk about going over to Barcelona at certain times to watch their pre-season tournament, and it sort of fills me with a little bit of joy to see us creating something that's going to go into our modern heritage, if you will, along the lines of that. And I think the longer we do it, the more prestige it'll carry, and we'll get bigger and better clubs along the way. So for me, I really enjoy that. The Stack, I suspect you'll find it's a police decision to make it home fans only. I know we pride ourselves in that we're not a football city who says away fans are banned from pubs, and that's your only fan, the only place you can go. And I like to keep it that way. But if you imagine pre-match a large number of away fans getting in there first, it's limited numbers. Our fans may be upset at an inability to get in there. And then, he's a twat. He is. And then to see the route they would have to take from the Stack to get to the away end in time for kickoff, for me, that's red flags, and I please being happy with that. And I suspect that's the thrust of the decision about making it home fans only. And I'm sure we'll support it financially in every way, shape, and form that we can. And so for me, yeah, it all kind of makes sense. I'm not a big fan of sort of container-built parks. So I would be interested to see what it's like in November and December. I might see that for myself when I'm back over. But it doesn't excite me in that way, but I can see why a lot of people are excited by it. And again, anything that we can add that adds additional match day revenue, that's the key, isn't it? Building match day revenue was the key to Arsenal's success initially once they moved to the Emirates, and that's something we really have to think about.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, the stack opening up, Sellers Cup back in town again, and some good opposition as well. And like I said, when I mentioned this to George at the top of this segment, it's great for kids and people who don't get a chance to go to St James's Park to get in and experience an atmosphere and see some of those players on show.
Yeah, it ticks loads of boxes, doesn't it? Commercially, getting youngsters in to St James's that ordinarily can't get in. Promotion of the women's team. It's a shame that Adidas couldn't get our beautiful new away shirt out this weekend, because I think they could have been onto something there, to get the tills going, the stacks open, and the lads get a run out. The stadium staff get to go back in and make sure that the tannoy's working, and the police get back into the swing of things. So it ticks loads and loads of boxes, doesn't it? Hopefully it'll be a peaceful weekend. I'm sure it will be. You'll get to see some decent football, and just hot off the press there. Steve Hasty's like Reuters these days. The team for tonight is actually out, and it's looking relatively strong. It's you get your chance to see kind of Alex Isak tonight, Nick Pope's in goal, Anthony Gordon, Joe Linton's playing, Lewis Hall, Dan Byrne, Jacob Murphy's there, Sean Longstaff, Emil Kraft. So it's a reasonable side, you're not just going to watch, the under-17s or whatever. So hopefully, we are defending champions, as you said, Steve, and we're going to be positive this season, aren't we? After the summer we've had, so we'll win that this weekend. We'll take that as a trophy win, and on next week, when it really matters. So good stuff.
Okay, good stuff. As always. Go on, George.
Yeah, sorry. It's just that something that stuck out for me, and I meant to mention it, is imagine even 20 years ago, 3 games in 2 days on St James's Park. On St James's Park.
Very true.
And the pitch will be pristine. So that's another modern invention which we're grateful for.
Good point to make. I
gather our pitch is 30% plastic. That's what I'm told.
Okay, we're going to get some tips now off Toon Tipster, so I'm going to play his music. Over to you, Joseph.
Thank you, Stephen. Football's back, everybody. Football is back. The championship kicks off tonight. We've got the Charity Shield or Community Shield or whatever it's called now on, is it Sunday? I believe that's getting played. But the main point I'm trying to make is football is back. I haven't got any prices for the Cellar Cup because that doesn't feel appropriate. What I thought I'd do this week is think about what the bookies are saying in terms of the Premier League season. There's some interesting bets and there's some interesting talking points in there as well. Some very obvious prices. I'll start with the winners of the Premier League this year. Obviously, Manchester City are top of that pile, but very, very close behind them are Arsenal, coming in at 13-8. If you think Lego Ed will do something better than he did last season. Liverpool at 13-2, followed by Chelsea at 18-1. Manchester United 22-1, and Newcastle United ahead of Tottenham Hotspur, may I gleefully make the point, are 28-1 if you think we will walk away with the league this year. In terms of qualifying for the top 4, you've got your obvious top 3 sides. According to the bookmakers, there's not much point putting your money on them. But Chelsea are 11-8, and they can't split Newcastle, Manchester United and Tottenham at 2-1, and Aston Villa to do what they did last season are 11-4. In terms of the top goal scorer in the Premier League this season, obviously, I guess Erling Haaland tops that list. Mo Salah is second at 9-1, but third in the list is Alexander Isak at 11-1, and he's up there ahead of players like Ivan Toney, Darwin Núñez, and Ollie Watkins. So that's good to see. In terms of relegation, Leicester are absolutely nailed on to go down, according to the bookmakers, followed by Ipswich and Southampton. Everton and Nottingham Forest 2-1. Wolves 7-2. Newcastle 150-1. If Steve, you want to continue with your all-round negativity. Interestingly, though, there is a team that makes the list here, and I don't know if the bookies know something we don't, but if you think Manchester City will get relegated, it is only 14-1. I'm not entirely sure what that's about, but you can get that price. There's a few other wild and wonderful markets this season, including the Golden Glove. And if we get our friend from Crystal Palace and Sven Botman comes back like a machine, Nick Pope is 16-1 for the Golden Glove. Anthony Gordon features on the assists lists at 14-1. And a market that will take us back a couple of weeks. The betting to be the next England manager, Eddie Howe's drifted, but there is a market involving the first manager to leave their club this season. Eddie Howe is the favourite at 5-1. Make of that what you will. This season, I'm going to be interested in the over 1.5 goals market. So essentially what that means is 2 goals in a game of football. And tomorrow, all 8 championship games, if you think there'll be more than 1.5 goals, is just over 8-1. So I might have a little flutter on that. Please be careful. We're not advocating gambling, as we say every season. So, the best advice is keep your money in your pocket or keep it sensible. But yeah, some interesting prices there. I think I'll go and put 20 quid on Man City to get relegated because that would be funny.
Thanks, Joe. Good stuff. And as Joe rightly pointed out, the team is out now. So there you go. Starting 11, Pope in goal, Joe Linton, Gordon, Isak, Kraft, Hall, Livramento, Murphy, Byrne, Miley and Longstaff. On the bench, Ruddy, Gillespie, Heffernan, Parkinson, Stanton, Harrison, Hearns, Munda, Sanusi and Shahar. So a mixture of experience and youth for today's game. I'm sure we'll see the same again tomorrow. Will we learn anything about Eddie's starting 11 next week? Not on your Nelly. Nobody will. So Eddie will know and Tyndall will know, but that will be it. But yeah, wish them all the best tonight and tomorrow. Okay, we don't get many of these days, but the ones we get are quite good. So here we go. Tune lookalike. All right, this one was sent in Darren Negativity and Prince Vulcan. He's loving that nickname, by the way. He does love it. This one, that was this one from Rita Maria Jackson as well. Steve Hasty. Sorry, Hasty, she says.
Apologies mean nout. Apologies mean nout.
She always apologizes. She didn't apologize to me for this one. Ming the Merciless and me. And this one, Graham Bowman said one for Friday's lookalike. And yeah, this guy looks like Gary Neville. He's a presenter apparently on the TV company out there. So thank you for that. This one as well, Alan McKenzie said, well, I never this morning at breakfast, we had the pleasure of bumping into Swedish Steve. So just somebody else with a bald head and a bit of facial hair. This one, Alan Shearer.
Yep.
Ooh, wow.
Not bad. Yeah. Not bad at all. And this one from Ian. Has Steve Hasty got a double? That's you in the background, Steve.
Hey, yeah, me.
Not bad.
I know who that is as well.
It's actually a journalist who's been on this show.
Yep.
Can you remember? Ian, isn't it?
Yep. Ian Murta.
The fans forum's starting to get quite popular with lookalikes. Alan Thompson says Stephen Kennedy. Not could be, but it's not. It's Aaron Farr. Steve Hasty again from Stephen Kennedy. No, No, it's not. It's John Gibson, Steve.
Oh, right. Oh, poor Gibbo.
Does look a bit like Gibbo. Another one of me from Stephen Kennedy.
The bald bloke.
Yeah,
Yep.
just two bald blokes, obviously. Ben Jacobs and Stephen Merchant. Again, we've had that one a few times, but it was a different photo, Stephen, so I'll give you the credit on that one. Here's your top two. Ethan Katzberg and David Crosby from Paul.
Good, that. Yeah.
Stu Penman gets the winner this week. Spenny Mag and Magnus. Well done, Stu. Definitely a comparison there.
Very brave.
Yes. I'm sure Spenny and Magnus will mention you on the fans forum the next time we're on. If you've got a look like
Stewie's phone will be in the toilet now, buzzing away as Spenny gets in touch with him.
If you've got a lookalike, go to the Facebook group, join it. If you've got a Facebook page, like it. NUFC Matters is the name on both. Go to @SteveRate on X, and you can send them on there or send them to the guys, and we will feature them next Friday. We've got a new player, George. We have signed a striker this week. Young lad from Sheffield United. Somebody who's going to learn, I'm sure, from Eddie Howe, but most importantly, learn from Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson. And I've got to be honest. I know we've touched on him briefly today, but we haven't really talked in depth about him. I'm pleased with this signing, George. I think it's the right signing at the right time, and I still think we'll end up keeping Isak and Wilson and he'll learn from both of them this year.
I agree. And as I say, the revelation by Eddie Howe that they've been watching him for over 3 years tells you a lot about what we're about at the moment, doesn't it? He isn't just a casual, or let's pick him up. They've actually studied him and followed his career. So they're not buying somebody they don't know anything about. They're buying somebody that they've thought very carefully about. And that makes it that much better for me, because the team under Howe have this knack of making a good player into a fantastic player, and so on. And let's hope they do the same with this lad, because when the little bit I've read about him, little bit I've seen about him, two snippets on I think it was YouTube, where he scored 2 headers, which were absolutely corkers. The sort of headers that you used to see in the days gone by from the edge of the 6-yard area into the top corner. That's stuff you can't teach. If he's doing that already, then absolutely smashing. And the comments about even Eddie commenting about his pace, pace to burn apparently. Well, I just, my mouth's watering at the prospect of him and Isak both playing together against any defence, never mind Premier League defence, any defence, and giving them a run around for 90 minutes. That would just be absolutely great. So I agree with you. Good timing, good easy risk, not a lot of money involved, but could pay dividends over and over again and make Solanke's 65 million just look stupid. It really could. So, no, I'm looking forward to the kid getting on and doing his thing, and looking forward to what Eddie and the team can do with him to take him that step further. Now, keep reminding people is that he's Danish. And the one thing about the Danes, small country, not many people, but they love their football, and their coaching system is second to none. Every village, every town's got their little pitch and have their regular coaching sessions for the kids that play in that area. And that filters through to the national side. And we've seen some of the Danish internationals that have come through and made it at very high levels. So let's hope he's the next one.
Steve, it's another signing in, and somebody who, of course, Tyndall has said he knew from old.
Yeah, I don't know where he knew him from, other than unless he went to Derby and watched him when he was on loan, and then Sheffield United. Interesting, 6'3". He's got the physique. Hasn't got the goals behind him yet, but he's only 21. Spent time in the lower divisions, so he'll be used to getting kicked. that's a guaranteed. Played at Sheffield in what was let's face it, was a poor team last season. He didn't really get the opportunities. They had two managers during the season. I think we talked about it slightly last week. And when you're a young lad and you're in a team like that, you either get thrown into every single game or you never get seen. We'll look at his goal record. Well, Isak didn't have a very good goal record from the previous season. I think he'd only scored 6 himself in the season before we signed him. And look what he's been like, a revelation. Because it's all to do with who's feeding you, what's the quality around you, what are you learning off, who are you learning from, how intelligent are you, and what are you taking in. And if Newcastle and Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall have been watching him and feel as though he's got the attributes that they're looking for, then they obviously think he's an intelligent enough footballer to learn. So I think you look at all of that in the round and you think, especially with a price of 10 million with probably some add-ons, it's a good deal for Newcastle United. It's another play in. It's a position that we're desperately needed to fill. And let's hope that the young lad does have a great career at Newcastle United, because then that benefits us all. So,
yeah, thoughts, Mitch?
Just want to say, Stu, I found your stash of chocolate buttons, mate, and they're quite tasty.
Hey!
I hope the other chocolate buttons.
Look, we've talked about this at length. The third striker was a problem. Who would be prepared to come and be third striker? It wasn't going to be a world star. Was it going to be somebody at their end of the career? Well, we've got someone like that in Callum Wilson, really, at the tail end of his career. So the ideal would be young, hungry, talented, raw, someone who could take advantage of his physicality and athleticism and mould into the shape that whatever Eddie wants. That ticks all the boxes for me. Already made an impact at under 21 level. Rated, I gather, by everybody who's been around him. And I think the link goes back to when Tindall had time at Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's identity. And so that's how long Eddie's been aware of him, was since Tindall was at Sheffield United. And so there's someone who has been in England more than a couple of years and has managed to make some Premier League appearances. And we've got some great foundations to build on. And I think if everybody, certainly from Newcastle United side of things, seem very excited to have him on board. So I think superb deal, superb price, and could be a real bonus signing that's saved money that we can invest elsewhere in the team. You know, while we're looking at a centre-back at 60 million potentially, you've got to remember every bit of money we can save there, we can potentially pump into the signing on the right wing that we seem so desperate to have. And would I want to compromise there? Not at all. So I think the signing of the striker at the right price he seems to be the right profile at the right price going forward. And wish him all the best.
Yeah, big names have been linked with us, Joe, but that's a good name. I mean, Isak is our first choice centre forward. I think we all agree on that. And if we keep Wilson and let him please contract out at least till January, maybe till the end of the season, he's still going to get his goals when he's fit, because his strike rate tells us that he's an accomplished Premier League striker. So, if we're going to stick with those two, having Asula come in and learn from those two guys for the next 9 months is going to be great. And hopefully, we see a development in him like we saw with Joe Linton under Eddie Howe.
Absolutely, Steve. Echo what the lads have said there. It can't be anything other than smart business, can it? For what he is, what he brings, the experience that he's got, albeit that he's 21, which is another massive bonus. We've been crying out for a long time because we do wrap Alex Isak in cotton wool because we have to. Callum Wilson is just complete, you cannot rely on him as experienced as he is. And I like Callum Wilson. I think he's a top centre forward, but wrong side of 30, and the reliance on him being fit for 20 games just isn't there. there seems to be a type that Eddie Howe was targeting. You know, if you think of the like of Solanke and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we were clearly looking for this big 6 foot plus central striker, and we've got one. And if there's development to be had, if there is seasoned professionals who are top professionals that he can learn from, for me, he's come to the right football club. I think one of the things that kind of assures me more than anything, though, is it's an option up top, because you know, poor Anthony Gordon last season, the kid was absolutely flogged because he was doing his shift on the wing, and then whenever Isaac had to come off or Callum Wilson was taken off, it was Anthony Gordon that was the default centre forward, and the kid just didn't look like he had another ounce left in him. We don't have to rely on that now. You know, we're talking about options. You know, Gordon now doesn't have to be the stand-in striker. He can come off. Harvey Barnes can come on if we are signing this right-hand side player, you know, to kind of bolster the strike force. It's options, and options are good. One of the things we fell really foul of last season, our squad just ran out of legs. We had the Champions League. We just couldn't cope, essentially. So players like this lad, who I'm guessing will be raw and young and hungry and hopefully fit, can only be an amazing addition to the squad. So let's get behind him. Let's hope that he finds the net sooner rather than later, and wish him all the best. Good signing.
Yeah, no, definitely agree that this is, you know, it's a forward thinking signing, and you know, Newcastle have signed a lot of youth as well, and we know Paul Mitchell's remit is to bring youngsters in, you know, into the first team squad, or you know, into that kind of, you know, that territory over each year. So, you know, it's a good idea, and like we've already seen with Minty as well, you know, from Newcastle's perspective, sometimes players come in, they go out on loan, and you know, then we sell them for a profit. It's just the way it's got to be. And Blue Rhythm Boy says, could a PSR buy and flip player? I mean, I don't think Asula is, but I get exactly where you're coming from. I think that could be the situation. Yvonne asked a question earlier, Mitch, is that a Sylvester Stallone watch you've got on your wrist?
Depends what you mean by. I don't know if Sylvester Stallone owns a Panerai, but it's a Panerai is what it is.
There you go. She'll have to Google that now. There we go. Watches and trainers on this show. That's all it is, and tops. Benny points out one of the main news stories from today, George, and that is that Lee Carsley has been appointed the interim head coach of England as Gareth Southgate's replacement search continues. Does that surprise you, George?
No, I mean, they were talking about that being it the day after Southgate gave up, weren't they? I mean, it was there were people talking about Carsley being the stand-in almost immediately. So it doesn't surprise us one bit. I'd be surprised and hugely disappointed, though, if the same thing happens to him as happens to Southgate. Remember, that's how Southgate got where it is. I don't want Carsley to be the next England manager. For goodness sake, surely we can do better than that with the talent there is around in football. I'm not entirely one of those that just wants to be an Englishman for an English manager. I'm still of the firm view that the best man for the job would suit me. And I can't see that being Carsley, frankly. So it didn't surprise us, because within hours almost of Southgate giving up, the word was out that Carsley was going to be the stand-in, and that's come to pass. So yeah, it wasn't a surprise at all. But I don't want to see him then in a couple of months' time. I want to see a fresh England manager with a fresh England squad of people training the teams, and a fresh outlook on how the teams are picked and run, and not just the manager's favourites, I'm afraid, because that's the one area that Southgate suffered for me. I mean, he stood by Maguire match after match after match, when even the Manchester United fans were saying he was awful, but he still managed to get into the England team. Let's have a new manager that's got a new squad and a new way of thinking, a forward way of thinking, should I say.
Steve, does this fuel the fire a little bit? Because obviously the fact that there's not been a permanent appointment suggests that they're waiting for somebody who could be in a job at the moment to get sacked.
More than likely. But you know what? It's the FA, so they don't want to pay any compensation whatsoever if they can get away with it. They'll wrap it up in succession planning. They'll wrap it up in, it worked with Southgate when he took over from Big Sam. He came in as an interim and then stayed for 8 years. This is similar. They'll also wrap it up in the fact that we've got a lot of lads who have come through the under-21s, and Causley will know them. Hopefully he knows them better than Gareth Southgate did, because that's why after selecting Anthony Gordon, he didn't give him a look in the entire championship. Hopefully Causley will remember what Anthony Gordon was like at the under-21s, and the lad gets a chance at the first team level. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it's typical England. They'll announce it. It's 2 games, isn't it? Republic Island, and I forget who else we're playing. But then you can see it being extended into the new year and then beyond. No competition for 2 years anyway. So let's see where it takes him. Let's see how he does. I mean, at the end of the day, he's the manager. If you're an England fan, you'll get behind him. You don't look too much at the England manager until it gets into like the championships themselves. So I think he's got a settled run in and a couple of good results, and before you know it, they'll have given him the job full time, because the press will say, "Isn't he wonderful?"
Yeah, Mitch, the England job, it's going to trundle on now into the next set of international fixtures.
This feels like an audition. It's an opportunity for Causley to stake a claim. And it's also an opportunity for the FA to help England fans get their head around appointing Lee Causley as England's manager, because they're not going after a big name. They're not going after somebody in the Premier League or someone from abroad. They're going after it's something which we often say should happen in football, but very rarely does: succession. Have a succession plan. And I think because Lee Causley carries not the biggest name in football, wasn't a superstar, and I think to allow people to get their heads around his appointment, I think that's what this period's for. It's an audition. It's an opportunity for him to take hold of it and grasp a bull by the horns and say, "This is my job. I'm here. Get used to it."
What's your thoughts, then, Joe?
Typical FA, isn't it? It's beige, it's safe. But as the lads have said, and it makes sense, there's something quite admirable about that succession. So you're not just pinging around, just getting the next manager and hoping for the best. But what the danger of succession is, I hope that doesn't mean that he takes on the tactics and, as George said, our inability to cross the halfway line, even though we've got the best attacking players collectively on the planet. So succession only goes so far. But yeah, it's safe, it's free, it's cheap. If he's a success, brilliant. If it doesn't work, well, it doesn't matter, because we were always going to bring a new manager in anyway. Without harping back to the bookies, he is the favourite. Graham Potter and Eddie Howe are still there, and then you get into Mickey Mouse land. So there's a select group of managers that tick the FA's box. Good with the press, not too controversial. We've been there and done that. And Lee Carsley's one of them. Lee Carsley to win the World Cup doesn't quite sound right, so I'll just watch this space on it. But I'm not bothered about England anyway. I couldn't care less, to be brutally honest.
Okay, time for Elliot. Every time our dog hears a bell, he goes and sits in the corner. He's a boxer. Brilliant stuff.
Oh.
Elliot, I hope you enjoyed your birthday as well. We are back tomorrow morning, me and George. Those were the days, 10 o'clock in the morning. So you've got a little bit of NUFC matters fixed before we have the next day of the Seller Cup. And on Sunday, we've got a special guest on the professionals. Me, Mitch and Stu will be together at 5 o'clock with this man, Derek Wright, My Story in Black and White. He's going to pop on and give us a little insight into his book about 4 decades fixing the mags. That book's now available on Amazon, and he'll be on having a chat with Dr. Neil. So it'll be an interesting chat that day. He says he's coming on for 10 minutes because he's a bit shy, but I think he'll be on a little bit longer than that. I know what Derek's like. Once you get him warmed up, he's got some great stories, but he won't want to give too much away about the book. If you're going to the Seller Cup tonight, enjoy yourselves. If you're going tomorrow, please take a check on Northumbria Police and Newcastle City Council's announcements today, just to keep you safe tomorrow. But whatever you're doing, enjoy yourselves at the weekend. And it's a big thank you to everybody in the chat. Over 800 watching all the way through tonight. It's amazing. Thank you for your support. Please subscribe if you're watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, or on X. You just need to go to YouTube, search NUFC Matters, and hit that subscribe button. It is free. We do 7 shows a week. But thanks to Joe, Mitch, Steve, and George. Go on, Steve.
Yes, Steve.
Go on, Steve.
We're dinner party guests. Do you still want them?
Yes, go for it, Steve. That's what we're going to finish with, mate.
Oh, great. Excellent. Let's do George first and go on.
Go on, George.
No, go on. Well, easy. From Newcastle point of view, would have been Freddie Shepherd. From an international point of view, I think I would have liked somebody like Bill Clinton. And from a female point of view, Marilyn Monroe.
Interesting, George. All right. Steve?
At first, I thought you said, whose wake do you want to go to? So I wrote down Tommy, Nigel and Elon, but then I've changed it, obviously. I've got a Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan and Bobby De Niro. I think what a dinner that would be. You know, Dylan will sing all the way through it. Springsteen and De Niro will just impersonate each other.
Fantastic. All right, Mitch?
The actor Alan Alda. Sir Bobby Robson.
Yeah.
And me granda.
Very good.
Okay, good stuff.
Wow,
And you, Joe?
Yeah, John Lennon for me, just to see which personality turns up and we could have a chat about music. I'd love to have had a conversation with John F. Kennedy and Jimmy Moore, just so I can throw me peas at him. But if Jimmy can't make it, definitely Jet from Gladiators, because she's my favourite.
I would like to have the actor who played Monkey in Monkey Magic. I'd like to have the actor who played Avon in Blake 7, Paul Darrow. And just for musical entertainment, I'd like to have Madonna there, because she's a fantastic entertainer from any generation. I'd quite happily have Madonna there. So there you are, Stephen. We fulfilled it. Dunnell's dinner party guests were Bruce Lee, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Elvis. That's a hell of a fight, that Dunnell. Great stuff. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. See you all tomorrow with me and George for Those Were the Days at 10 a.m. And we'll catch you live on Sunday. Me, Mitch, Stu, and Derek Wright, 5 o'clock for the professionals. Take care, guys.
All the best.
Cheers.
See you guys.